Would you walk away from the child who calls you mommy just to protect her from being taken away forever? Rachel Bennett had finally found purpose again in the laughter of a little girl who saw her as family, in the warmth of a home she helped heal, and in the growing love she felt for a man who once handed her a bottle of water on the street. But just as everything felt right, a hidden clause in a will threatened to tear it all apart. Her choice: leave the man and child who had saved her, or risk losing the little girl to a cold legal battle she might never win. What began with one small act of kindness spiraled into a life-altering connection. But when past promises and painful secrets collide, how far would you go to protect someone else's happiness at the cost of your own? This story will take you from the sidewalk of New York to the steps of a courthouse, and into the heart of a woman who believed she had nothing left until love gave her everything to lose. Stay with us, because what happens next, she will break your heart, then put it back together in the most unexpected way. Rachel Bennett sat hunched on a scorching New York sidewalk, gripping a crumpled plastic bag that held her entire life, a worn change of clothes, a few photographs, and her college diploma. Just 3 days ago, she had an apartment, a job, and dreams. Now she had nothing but the unbearable weight of shame and the heat beating down on her skin. No one noticed her. Not the man in the tailored suit checking his Apple Watch, not the woman rushing by with designer heels, not even the tourists snapping photos of nearby skyscrapers. It was as if she didn't exist, until someone did see her. A shadow fell over her lap. She looked up startled, blinking into the light. A man in a wrinkled blue shirt stood there, holding a baby girl on his hip and a cold bottle of water in his free hand. "It's brutal out here today," he said gently. "I thought you might need this." Rachel blinked again. She hadn't heard a kind voice in days. Thank you. I'm Daniel. This little one's Ava." "What's your name, Rachel?" she whispered, taking the bottle with trembling hands. The water tasted better than anything she could remember. Ava, probably not more than a year and a half old, leaned toward her with a sunny smile and stretched out her chubby arms. Rachel couldn't hold back the tears. But to understand how she ended up here, we have to go back just 3 days earlier to the moment her world collapsed. "Rachel, I need to see you in my office." "Now," said Mr. Grant, her boss at the firm in downtown Manhattan. The tone in his voice made her stomach drop. As she walked down the long hallway, coworkers avoided her gaze. She felt it before she even stepped inside his office. The doom. "I'll get straight to it," he said. "The company's downsizing. Clients are pulling out. We have no choice but to let go of our newest hires." "I've been here 2 years," Rachel protested. "I designed the entire Soho urban housing project, I know. You're brilliant, but decisions have been made. I'm truly sorry. We'll give you 2 months severance." Rachel left the office in a daze. She had graduated top of her class from the University of Chicago, passionate about social housing, eager to change lives. But dreams didn't pay rent. That night when she reached her small apartment in Brooklyn, a white paper was taped to her door. Final notice. You have 72 hours to pay outstanding rent or vacate the premises. Her knees buckled. She had spent every penny helping her mother through chemotherapy last year. With no job, no savings, and no support system, Rachel sat up all night making desperate phone calls to friends, banks, anyone. No one could help. By the 3rd day, the eviction team arrived. "I'm sorry, Miss Bennett." "Orders from the landlord," the man said with a sympathetic look. Rachel packed her life into a single plastic bag. She didn't even have time to take her laptop. Her books, her sketch pads, even the plants she had named, everything was left behind. And now she sat on the concrete, hungry, dizzy, defeated. Her blouse clung to her in the heat. Her throat burned with thirst. Her mind reeled with the words, "How did I end up here?" That's when Daniel appeared. He didn't just offer her water, he offered her a moment of humanity. "Everyone deserves to be seen," he said softly, settling beside her, as Ava giggled and played with Rachel's fingers. "Not people like me," Rachel replied bitterly. "I lost everything. Tell me what happened." There was something calming in his voice, something that made her want to speak. So she did. She told him about her passion for architecture, about designing spaces that made families feel safe. She spoke of her mom, of debt of hope that dried up. Daniel listened, not just with his ears, but with his eyes focused, kind, present. He didn't interrupt. He didn't look bored. When Rachel finished, Daniel said something that made her sit up straight. "You're exactly the kind of person this world needs more of. I work in construction too, actually." "Oh," she asked, curious despite herself. He didn't look like a construction worker. "Let's just say I wear a few hats." He smiled. Then he reached into his wallet and handed her a simple business card. It read Daniel Carter, Carter & Coburn Construction, President and CEO. Rachel stared at it in disbelief. "Your weight, that Carter." As in the housing project making headlines, he just smiled. "Sometimes we meet the right people in the wrong moment, but that doesn't mean it isn't the beginning of something important." After they parted ways, Rachel found a temporary women's shelter to stay the night. Later that evening, scrolling on a shared phone, she saw a breaking news alert. Carter & Coors launches $300 million low-income housing initiative. CEO Daniel Carter speaks on the importance of human dignity. And there he was, on screen. The man with the blue shirt, the baby in his arms, speaking to the press about compassion. The same man who'd knelt beside her on the sidewalk like she was someone worth seeing. Rachel stared at his photo, her heart pounding. It couldn't be a coincidence. Could it? She held the card all night like it was made of gold. But could she really call him? Would he even remember her? Her pride said no, but her heart whispered yes. Forgive me for stopping the story here. I know we're just getting to the part where things really start to change. Have you ever met someone who changed the course of your life with just a small act of kindness? And if you were, Rachel, would you call that number? Tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know which part of the world you're in. If you're feeling this story, please hit that like button and drop a heart. Your support means more than you know. Rachel stared at the phone for nearly an hour before dialing the number. Her hand trembled as she hit call. 2 rings. Then Rachel. Daniel's voice came through, warm and unmistakably genuine. "You remembered me," she whispered. "I've been hoping you'd call," he replied. "I meant what I said. You matter." They met the next morning. Daniel didn't take her to a crowded office. He drove her to his home, an elegant yet strangely lonely mansion in Westchester Hills. Ava squealed with delight when she saw Rachel and flung herself into her arms as if no time had passed. Rachel's heart swelled. "I need help," Daniel admitted. "Ava needs someone I can trust. I travel a lot for work. Would you consider being her caretaker? Live here. I'll pay you well. This isn't charity, it's an offer for someone I respect." Rachel hesitated. Pride tangled with fear, but ultimately the memory of Ava's little arms around her neck gave her the answer. "I'll do it. For her." The first few days were surreal. The mansion was stunning but cold. Too polished, too quiet. Rachel sensed that since Emily's death, the house had become more like a shell than a home. But Ava filled the silence. Every laugh, every hug, every sleepy snuggle after bedtime slowly began softening the edges. Rachel became more than a nanny. She started reorganizing the space to feel warmer, more alive. She even ventured into the garden to revive neglected flower beds. In the process, she stumbled upon a pile of architectural blueprints left on a patio table. Curiosity pulled her in. They were plans for Daniel's upcoming affordable housing development, the one she saw in the news. As she studied the layouts, her heart sank. The designs were flashy but flawed. Poor ventilation, wasted square footage, no dedicated areas for children to play or families to gather. For 2 nights, she didn't sleep. Should she say something? It wasn't her place. She was just the help, right? But those families, they deserve better. When Daniel returned from a trip to Chicago, she couldn't keep it in. "Daniel, I know this might be overstepping, but I found the plans. I think there are problems, big ones." His jaw tightened. "Those are confidential." "I know. I'm sorry. But if these homes are built like this, they'll feel like cages, not sanctuaries." Her voice quivered with conviction. She spoke of natural light, safe communal areas, space-efficient kitchens for single moms trying to watch their kids while cooking. She spoke from the perspective of someone who had once designed with purpose and had once lost everything. Daniel didn't interrupt. When she finished, he sat back in stunned silence. "Where did you study again?" he asked. "University of Chicago. I specialized in social architecture. Do you still have your thesis?" "It was on my laptop. I lost it when I got evicted." "Then we'll get another copy." That night, Daniel made her an offer that turned her blood to fire. "Work with me," he said, "not just for Ava. I want you consulting on the project. These people deserve someone who truly understands them. You've lived it. You know." Rachel was speechless. For the first time in months, her soul stirred with something other than fear. "Yes," she whispered. "But I have one condition." Daniel tilted his head. "I want to meet the families. I need to see who we're designing for. I don't believe in building for people I've never spoken to." A slow, proud smile spread across Daniel's face. "You're remarkable. You know that weeks passed. Rachel transformed not just the blueprints, but the house. Her sketches filled the walls of Daniel's office. Her ideas excited the whole team. Even Ava began calling her Mommy Fia when she thought no one was listening. But the peace didn't last. One evening, as Rachel and Daniel sat close together on the terrace watching Ava chase fireflies, their hands almost touched. "Rachel," he murmured, voice low and unsure, "I haven't felt this way since Emily." Rachel's heart leapt and sank at the same time. She opened her mouth only to be interrupted by the click of a key in the front door. "Daniel." "Are you home?" came a woman's sharp voice from inside. Daniel's face drained of color. "That's Victoria," he whispered. "Emily's sister. She has a key." Seconds later, a woman in her mid-40s with immaculately styled hair and expensive heels stepped onto the terrace like she owned it. "And who might this be?" she asked, eyeing Rachel with unmistakable disdain. "She's Ava's nanny and an architect helping with the housing project," Daniel said quickly. Victoria's lips curled. "The nanny lives here now. I thought it would be better for Ava's routine." Daniel replied, his voice tight. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "We need to talk. Alone." Rachel excused herself, heart pounding. From the upstairs hallway, she heard raised voices. The word custody rang out. Her blood ran cold. Later that night, Daniel found her in Ava's room. "There's something in Emily's will." A clause, he said, barely able to look her in the eye. "If I live with another woman too soon, Victoria can challenge custody. She's threatening to take Ava." Rachel felt the air leave her lungs. "What are you going to do?" she whispered. "I don't know." Rachel looked down at the child sleeping in her arms. "I do. Forgive me for pausing the story here, just when everything is falling apart. But if you were Rachel, would you leave to protect the child you love, even if it broke your heart? And do you believe true love can survive when sacrifice is the only path? Let me know what country you're watching from. I'd love to hear from you. And if this story moved you even a little, please drop a heart and like the video. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Rachel stood in the doorway, holding her breath as she watched Ava sleep, soft cheeks rising and falling with each tiny breath. The little girl's arms were wrapped tightly around her favorite stuffed bunny, the one Rachel had repaired with needle and thread just last week, and now she had to leave her. The next morning, while the sun painted soft gold over Westchester Hills, Rachel packed her things into a single suitcase. Daniel waited by the staircase, eyes hollow, fingers gripping the railing like it was the only thing keeping him standing. "I won't let her take Ava," he whispered, voice cracking. "She'll do it if I stay," Rachel replied gently. "You know she will." He nodded slowly, his jaw tightening in frustration. "I finally found someone who understands this house, this child, me. And now I have to lose you." "You won't," Rachel said, tears in her eyes. "Not really. Ava will remember me. You will. And maybe someday." But she didn't finish the sentence. They embraced long, silent, filled with unspoken words. Then Rachel kissed Ava's forehead one last time and slipped out the front door without looking back. 2 months passed. Rachel rented a tiny apartment in Queens and took a position at a mid-size architecture firm. She was good at what she did, but the fire that once burned so brightly in her designs had dimmed. At night, she'd stare at her phone, waiting, hoping for a message from Daniel, but it never came. Meanwhile, the Carter home grew darker. Ava cried through the nights. She refused to eat. Even Victoria noticed it, and for the first time questioned whether she'd truly protected her niece or destroyed something sacred. Then one day, Rachel's best friend Jessica showed up at her door with a coffee and a plan. "You gave up too fast," Jessica said. "Have you even spoken to a lawyer about that ridiculous clause?" Rachel shook her head. What's the point? Jessica raised an eyebrow. Because love is worth fighting for. They visited family attorney Robert Hayes, who reviewed Victoria's documents. He leaned back, his brows furrowing. This clause only applies if the father moves in with someone within 2 years of his spouse's passing, according to the dates Daniel's wife passed over 2 years ago. That clause doesn't hold. Rachel sat up straight, hope blooming in her chest for the first time in weeks. But there's more, Robert said, tapping the page. This looks like an early draft of the will. No legal stamp. No backup. Rachel's heart raced. Daniel mentioned a box of Emily's letters once. Maybe. Without wasting time, she texted Daniel, "Can we talk? It's important, about Ava and Emily's will." He replied in seconds, "Meet me at our cafe." 1 hour. At the cafe, they found each other with eyes that had aged months and days. Daniel reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a sealed envelope. "I found this in Emily's handwriting," he said, voice shaking. "It's addressed to me. It says, 'To open when you found love again.' I never had the courage until now." Rachel reached across the table and placed her hand on his. "Open it." Inside was a letter filled with love, grace, and unexpected foresight. "Daniel, if you're reading this, it means you've survived the grief and found someone who makes you feel alive again. That's what I wanted for you. That's what I want for Ava. If that person is Rachel Bennett, she has my blessing. I researched her work before I passed. She's special. Keep her. Protect her. Let her love you both." Daniel choked on emotion. Rachel was frozen. At the end of the letter, Emily had written, "I revised my will. Victoria doesn't know. The clause no longer applies." The next morning, armed with the official revised documents from Emily's lawyer, Daniel and Rachel returned to the Carter estate. Victoria opened the door with her usual coolness until she saw Rachel. "You shouldn't be here," she said sharply. "Actually, I should," Rachel replied calmly as Daniel handed over the papers. "You've been threatening something that no longer exists." Victoria read the documents, her face falling from cold confidence to visible remorse. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she murmured. "I was trying to protect Emily's wishes." "And now you know what they really were," Daniel said softly. A voice interrupted from behind. Fia Ava ran down the hallway barefoot, barreling into Rachel's arms. Rachel held her tight, tears streaming freely down both of their faces. "You came back," Ava whispered. "I'll never leave you again," Rachel promised. Months later, the Carter Bennett Residences officially opened its doors. 200 families found safe, welcoming homes thanks to the designs Rachel had drawn, the love Daniel had believed in, and the child who had brought them together. At their wedding, held in the garden that once echoed with silence but now overflowed with laughter, Ava carried the rings down the aisle in a basket of hand-picked flowers. As Daniel slid the ring onto Rachel's finger, he whispered, "You weren't just seen, you became the vision." Rachel smiled through tears. "And you were the man who reminded me I was never invisible." They kissed and the guests cheered, but none louder than Ava, who shouted, "We're a family now forever." And in the golden glow of sunset, it was clear love hadn't just built a home, it had built a legacy. Let me ask you, do you believe that the people meant to find us always will, no matter how far we fall? And would you have walked away the way Rachel did if it meant protecting the ones you love? What do you think of this story? Comment Gnome 3 if you loved it, Gnome 2 if you thought it was just okay, and Gnome 1 if it didn't fully hit the mark. Also, tell me, what country are you watching from? If this story moved you, please give it a like, drop a heart, and share it so more people can feel this kind of hope too.